It is the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill with you. The Cape Atlantic League basketball playoff Final Fours have been postponed tonight. They will resume tomorrow night at Apsagami at 5 o'clock. It will be Atlantic City and Holy Spirit. And at 7 o'clock, St. Augustine will take on the defending champion, Wildwood Catholic. Again, the games tonight have been postponed due to the weather tonight. But to break down the matchups with us for those games tomorrow, Press of Atlantic City High School beat writer, longtime Mike McGarry, and he joins us here on the Sports Bash, Mike. And we say long time, but this is still very new, this tournament, and it has brought a lot of excitement. But when push came to shove, we ended up with the top four seeds. All the top seeds played out. Were you surprised at any of the results that got us to this point?
Not really. I thought of the four first-round games, I thought two of them, obviously the Middle Township Wildwood Catholic, that 5-4 game, Middle being the 5, Wildwood Catholic being the 4. That game could have gone anyway, and it almost did. You know, obviously Wildwood Catholic hanging on to win 40-38. I thought the Bridgeton Atlantic City game was an interesting game. Obviously Bridgeton 7-seed, Atlantic City 2. But, you know, obviously that game closed for a half, and then Atlantic City wearing them down. So I can't say that I am surprised that the top four seeds, you know, made it through to tonight at Apsagami.
All right, Mike, with that being said, then, obviously there's a lot of anticipation for the 5 o'clock game as Atlantic City and Holy Spirit will play for the third time. Now, we sat next to each other as Holy Spirit was down 45-2 at halftime against St. Anthony's. They did rebound to beat Egg Harbor Township, but what is your thoughts leading into that game tonight? Is this game going to live up to the anticipation?
Well, I think yes, because I think Atlantic City Holy Spirit games always seem to live up to the anticipation. And regardless of what has happened before to the teams or what happens after to these teams, these games always seem to come down to the final 2 to 3 minutes, and I expect this to be no different. You mentioned the St. Anthony game. Obviously, Holy Spirit down 45-2 at halftime of that game. You know, kind of a mind-boggling score there. But I think you're going to see Holy Spirit respond. I think coming off the loss to Atlantic City last week, coming off the St. Anthony game, I think, you know, I believe that Holy Spirit's going to make a stand and probably play, you know, one of their best games of the season, or at least one of their hardest games of the season. Play with some pride, play with some guts, and really make a stand and show people that maybe the Holy Spirit they saw on Saturday, that's not the real Holy Spirit. I think we'll get the real Holy Spirit.
All right, talk a little bit about these two and the matchups they had before. Atlantic City's won both of those games, both very close games, and then the anticipation. Tell us a little bit about this particular matchup, 2 versus 3, AC the 2, Holy Spirit the 3.
Well, I think the last time they played, I think it was kind of a tale of two games. Atlantic City jumped up to a 21-8 lead over Holy Spirit, and then I think Atlantic City maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit, let Holy Spirit back in the game. Atlantic City started playing to get the game over, rather than doing what they did to build that 21-8 lead. Holy Spirit came back, took a lead. Atlantic City ended the game with a 5-0 run. Atlantic City's got Lamar Thomas, kind of an outside shooter. Kevin Allen inside. I think he's one of the more underrated players in South Jersey. 6'4". He can get inside. He can step outside and shoot the three-pointer. And then you've got Leon Daniels, the transfer from Holy Spirit to Atlantic City, who did not play in the first game because he wasn't eligible and kind of struggled in the second game. So, you know, I think you have to make Atlantic City a little bit of a favorite here based on winning the first two games, but you've got the old sports cliche, can you beat a team 3 times in one season? The old adage says that's very tough to do. Atlantic City did it 2 years ago to Holy Spirit. Can they do it this year? That's the big question.
Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City High School beat writer. It's one of the big nights in the Cape Atlantic League, the boys basketball semifinals, Atlantic City against Holy Spirit. These two teams here, the winner would face Wildwood Catholic, St. Augustine Prep, and obviously Wildwood Catholic, for those of those who don't remember, they are the defending champions here. However, many people think the Prep is a clear favorite in this game. Is this game going to be better than people anticipate?
I think it is going to be better than people, than people anticipate. They played earlier this season, and although St. Augustine ended up winning by double digits, it was a close game at halftime. I think Wildwood Catholic is a young basketball team. That game in the middle of January, they've gotten older, they've matured since then. I think the key to tonight's game is how well Wildwood Catholic shoots from the perimeter. DJ Smith, Trey Smith, the two brothers, can shoot the ball from the perimeter. Ryan Legler can shoot it from the perimeter. I think if Wildwood Catholic is able to sink some perimeter shots, then I think it's going to be a very close game. If Wildwood Catholic struggles from the perimeter, obviously I think St. Augustine might be able to have its way. I think the other matchup to watch is I would imagine that Wildwood Catholic senior defender Kevin McWade, one of the best defenders in the league, is going to match up against St. Augustine point guard Saeed Nelson. We'll see if McWade can slow Nelson to a degree. But to me, this game comes down to how well Wildwood Catholic shoots the ball from the perimeter. If they shoot it well, I think it'll be a close game. If they struggle from the perimeter, then I think you'll see the same type of game we saw in early January, where St. Augustine kind of wore Wildwood Catholic down inside with Nate Aldridge, big 6'5" center, and pulled away to a double-digit win.
Now, Mike, for those people out there saying Wildwood Catholic, they're the defending champion, they virtually lost everybody from last year. This St. Augustine team, though, very young. This could be a team that we're talking about for the next couple of years doing some special things.
Right, exactly. Kevin McWade is the only starter to return for Wildwood Catholic. Their other four starters graduate. And in St. Augustine, you're exactly right. It already seems like Saeed Nelson is a junior. Justin Mutz, the big 6'4", 6'5", dynamic forward, is a sophomore. Austin Kennedy is a sophomore guard. You're right. We're going to be talking about this team for the next year, next 2 years. It already seems like they've been in high school for 5-6 years. It seems like it's not possible that that they're as young as they are. But this is a young St. Augustine team, and it's a St. Augustine team that, quite frankly, is looking for its first success in this tournament. This tournament began in 2012. St. Augustine, who we think of as one of the top teams in the state, in the Cape Atlantic League, has lost in the semifinals 3 straight years. They haven't won a Cape Atlantic League title since 2011. That's a long time for a program like this. So I think, the Hermits, they're hungry, and they think it's about time that they sort of took their spot back up atop the Cape Atlantic League, and we'll see if this team can do it.
All right, Mike, these are the Final Four teams regularly. I mean, lots of people have interest in these games, specifically when these 4 teams, they seem to have the bigger followings in this area, plus Middle Township. Do any of these 4 teams have that special feeling about them? When these people listen or watch this game, are they looking at one of these 4 teams that has a special run on them if they can use this tournament to springboard to the state tournament that starts next week?
Well, I think just by quality of opposition, you've got to look at St. Augustine Prep in Atlantic City. St. Augustine is the top seed in non-public A. Atlantic City is 19-4. They're the number 2 seed in South Jersey Group 4. I think both those teams are capable of making a run in the state playoffs. I think when you look at Wildwood Catholic and Holy Spirit, what you have is 2 teams that really put their almost entire season into the Cape Atlantic League tournament because they play in that non-public B bracket, which has, in South Jersey, has Roselle Catholic, Gill St. Bernard, St. Anthony out of North Jersey. Those teams are not only the best teams in New Jersey, they are some of the best teams in the country. So realistically, for Holy Spirit or Wildwood Catholic to get a run in non-public B, it's probably not going to happen realistically just because the talent level in that bracket is so high. So I think what you see tonight is you see 2 teams in Atlantic City and St. Augustine that would like to win the CAL tournament but might have a life after the CAL tournament with the state tournament. And you have 2 teams in Holy Spirit and Wildwood Catholic. For them, the biggest games they play this season are tonight and if they win on Saturday.
Saturday would be the finals at Stockton University. Mike, Spirit AC, Wildwood Catholic, the Prep. Who do you like to be playing on Saturday afternoon?
Well, I'll go, I'll take the chalk, basically. I'll take the chalk, the easy way out. I think St. Augustine undefeated against New Jersey teams. I think Wildwood Catholic a little young. But like I said, if they shoot well from the perimeter, anything can happen. I'll take Atlantic City, I guess, a slight edge over Holy Spirit. But I think, something tells me to watch Holy Spirit. I don't think 45-2 really indicates what they were like. And I think we're going to see Holy Spirit's best effort of the season tonight. So that game, I'll give a slight edge to Atlantic City, but but I wouldn't be surprised that Holy Spirit and Holy Spirit it would be a great story if after what happened to them Saturday at St. Anthony, they come back and get to a Cape Atlantic League final in the same gym. They played that St. Anthony game at Stockton. For them to get back to a Cape Atlantic League final in Stockton a week later and get a chance to redeem himself would be a tremendous story. So I'll pick St. Augustine and Atlantic City, slight edges in both games. But journalistically, you always root for the best story, and maybe Holy Spirit's the best story. And Wildwood Catholic has a chance if it shoots well from the perimeter. So I think I've covered all my bases right there.
An AC Wildwood Catholic rematch in the finals would be nice. And then, as Mike mentioned there, AC Prep. They played earlier this year with the Prep winning. I'm sure AC would like revenge in that game. So there's storylines everywhere. Follow Mike during the game at AC Press McGarry. Use the hashtag HSLive to follow along